The view of the Acropolis from the balcony of the King George was very like the poster at Petros in Coopertown. I took longer over breakfast than I'd expected, looking out at the view, reading bits from the book on Epidaurus. Sandy would expect me to have done my homework, relaxing in the warm morning sunlight. So I had to dress in a hurry to get down to the lobby by 10. Not difficult. I don't have a large wardrobe to choose from, unlike Kate, who could barely get all her clothes plus herself into a room at Bennessee. Well, Kate said only, and if I had that many clothes, I'd have a terrible time deciding what to wear. I put on a blue and white seersucker dress and my sandals and was ready when Zachary pulled up in a diesel taxi with flames coming out the tailpipe. I remember thinking the car was on fire when I first saw a diesel taxi in Lisbon. I felt simultaneously warm with excitement and frozen with shyness as I sat by this extremely handsome young man on the drive to the Hilton. Zachary did the talking, so I didn't have to worry about what to say. And listen, Red, as we drove to the Hilton, Paul, about coming up to my room is perfectly okay. I mean, I'm not going to try anything or anything like that, so just relax. His room was on the 11th floor of the Hilton, and the best curve of the building, he told me as we went up in a very swift elevator. He led me through his room and right out onto the balcony, and I caught my breath in awe and delight. He had a view not only of the strange flat-top hill with the Parthenon, but also a wide vista of the harbor at Piraeus, with the Aegean Sea to the left, and there was a high stony mountain rising out of cypress trees, topped with a stone belfry, and then a large white building, probably a monastery. It was far more spectacular than the view from the King George or the poster at Petros. I had left my breath out and was almost shocked at the vast sweep of gloriousness. He gave me proprietary smile. Told you it would wow you. It did. But the funny thing was that despite the staggering magnificence of the view, I liked my old hotel better than the Hilton. As though reading my thoughts, Zachary waved toward the room. The decor is pure Hilton, and a Hilton is a Hilton is a Hilton. However, my pa has connections, and the view redeems it. And the bathroom is European, black marble, with a tub made for people who prefer baths to showers. Like me, I said. I can't start the day without a shower. Okay, what now? The Acropolis, please, if you haven't been there too many times. The Acropolis, pretty Paul, can't be visited too many times. We'll just grab a cab. Can't we walk? We could if we had nothing else to do all day. I want to drive out in the country with you and then come back to Athens and maybe go to the Plaka to one of my favorite small tavernas. He was planning to be with me the whole day. I felt a thrill of pleasure ripple over me. I glanced at him out of the corner of my eye. He was just as gorgeous as I thought, and at least 2 inches taller than I. It was a glorious end of summer day, despite Zachary's chatter about the terrible pollution which was destroying the Parthenon and other ancient sites, and which gave him allergies. To me, the air was clear and crisp and invigorating. It would be romanticizing to say it was like Gaia, because Gaia had as much fog and dampness as any other island, but it was like Gaia as I remembered it. Zachary insisted on paying me the entrance fee for both of us, and I was not happy about this. I didn't want to be beholden to some guy I had just met who came from the world of megabucks. I pulled out my Greek money and my booklet of traveler's checks, but he brushed me aside and got our tickets, and I couldn't very well arm wrestle him in the middle of the throng. I followed him through the gates, along with a lot of other tourists. Many were bunched together in groups, with guides herding them like sheep. Zachary pointed to a cluster of Japanese tourists slung with cameras. He nudged me. They say that Japanese tourists really aren't pushy. They just get behind a German. He laughed, then said, don't you approve ethnic jokes? Just at that moment, we saw a big red-faced man in lederhosen pushing his way through the crowd. See, Zachary said, but the man opened his mouth and called to someone, and he spoke in pure Middle American. Ouch! Zachary made a face. Corn belts. What does he think he's trying to prove? No wonder most of the world hates us. Come on, Paul. If you think there's a mob today, you should see it in mid-season. He took me by the hand. I pulled back, looking at the scaffolding partly concealing a beautiful building. Not so fast. He stopped. Okay, listen. This is really interesting. They're literally inoculating the stone with antibiotics to try to slow down decay. The caryatids. You know what caryatids are? Max had seen to it I would not come to Greece unprepared. Female forms, sort of like columns, holding up a roof. I think Zachary was slightly annoyed that I knew about caryatids. Kate had said to me, listen, Polly, guys don't like it if they think you know more than they do. I do know more than they do. You don't need to show it. Okay then, Zachary said. They're trying to restore the caryatids, which hold up the erection. That's what all this scaffolding is for, and that's why the Parthenon is roped off, because all those tourist feet were wearing down the marble. Okay, Red, come on. The Theseum is one of my favorites. What gets me is knowing that all this beauty was destroyed not so much by the erosion of time and normal wear and tear as by war and greed and man's stupidity. It really makes me more anti-war than some of the more obvious things like nuclear stockpiling. Lots of these fallen columns were destroyed by people scavenging for metal. What for? Guns? Cannons? I shuddered. You mean they really destroyed gorgeous temples just to get a small quantity of metal? That's exactly what I mean. And Lord Elgin, all those marbles he took, I looked around. I suppose he really thought he was saving them from the Turks, but shouldn't they be back now where they belong? At least those which didn't get lost when that ship sank? Why don't you shut up, Polyhymnia? You're showing off how much you know again. You're laying back the tape of what Max taught you. Zachary knew I was showing off, but he was nice about it. You've done your homework, haven't you? That's okay. Lots of Americans don't know anything about what they're gawking at and don't really care. Like my pop. He has a fancy camera and takes hundreds of slides, and when he gets them home, he can't even remember where he was when he took the pictures. He led me to a marble bench in the shade of an ancient olive tree. Let's sit for a minute and watch the crowd go by, okay? You know, Red? Don't call me Red. Polly. You really intrigue me. You aren't like any girl I've ever met. Was that good? He made it sound good. You said you're nearly 17. I nodded. I'd say you're nearly 30 and nearly 12, and there's something virginal about you. Nice contrast to me. But don't worry, I won't do anything to hurt you. Trust me. Did I trust this guy? I was not in a trusting frame of mind, but I didn't have to trust him to enjoy being with him. Are you? Zachary asked. Am I what? A virgin. I hesitated. She who hesitates is lost. He gave me a long scrutinizing look. Still waters run deep, eh? I tried to recover myself. But it's not a question you should ask somebody you have just met. It is not an acceptable question. He actually looked discomfited. Sorry, sometimes my curiosity gets the better of me. And you make me intensely curious, pretty Paul. I don't play around, I said. Not ever. Sweetie, I never thought you did. Not for a minute. Whatever you did, and with whomever, would be totally serious. He touched my arm lightly. I didn't mean to upset you. Shall we change the subject? Please. I was trembling. We got up and started to walk along again, brushed by tourists who were hurrying to catch up with their groups. If there was going to be any further conversation between us, he would have to start it. I wanted to tell him to take me back to the hotel, but my voice was lost somewhere deep down inside me. After a while, he spoke in a quiet, normal way. The Parthenon is probably more beautiful to us today than it would have been when it was built, because now it's open to the Greek light that plays on the marble and brings it to life. In the old days, when it was complete, the main body of the building, the sanctuary that housed the goddess, was enclosed and had no windows, so the only light came from the doorway. Wait, please. I dug into my shoulder bags. Let me get some of this down so I can write about it in the journal I have to take back to school. Now you sound like a little kid again. Why bother? Teacher will spank you if you don't. I said I'd do it. I opened the journal and made a couple of notes. My hand was steady. You might add, Zachary said, that despite their brilliance, the Greeks were limited in their architecture because they never discovered the arch. With the arch, you can support lots more weight, and that's why the great cathedrals can be so spacious. Writing furiously, I said, you certainly know a lot. I'm not stupid. I got kicked out of several prep schools because I was bored. But if I'm interested in something, I learn about it. Okay, take your notes and then we'll go on. We can come back to the Acropolis another day. It's so overwhelming, you can't take too much at a time. I wrote down what Zachary had said, and I wondered about the Greeks and their gods. Why had they closed in the Parthenon so that the goddess Athena had been hidden? Zachary surprised me by picking up on my thoughts. Odd, isn't it, Paul? How all the different civilizations want to box God in. The ancient Hebrews wanted to hide the tabernacle in the Holy of Holies so the ordinary people couldn't see it. Christians are just as bad. Peter wanted to put Jesus, Moses, and Elijah in a box on the Mount of Transfiguration. We had come to another bench, and I sat down. It was not easy to write standing up, and the notes I had taken were an untidy scrawl. I'm an atheist, obviously, Zachary said. I looked up at him. For an atheist, you seem to know a lot about religion. That's why I'm an atheist. Maybe it was because Zachary was older than the kids I went to school with, but I did not seem to be afraid to talk about ideas. I was far more comfortable with ideas than with ordinary social conversation. Athena was the Greek name for the goddess. The Romans called her Minerva. Max's sister was Minerva Alaire. This was the kind of conversation Max delighted in. The sun was hot, the same sun which beat down on these stones and other people thousands of years ago. Penny, Paul, Zachary said. Oh, just wondering what it would be like to worship a goddess. Was that a Freudian question? You're a feminist? Liberation for all, I said. The Greeks have a pantheon of gods of both sexes, didn't they? I put the notebook in my bag. Why am I suddenly famished? Breakfast was a long time ago. Zachary took my hand to pull me up. I've ordered the car for 11. We'll drive to Delphi and have lunch at a Xenia. Know what a Xenia is? Sandy and Rhea and I will be staying at Xenia's. Greek run-ins? You don't have to show off all the time, Kate said. Ever been in one? I just arrived yesterday. Okay, come on, let's go. The car was an old VW Bug, a bit cramped for her long legs. Sorry about this rental trap, Zachary said. It was all I could get at the last minute. We have a Land Rover on Bennessine. Daddy could drive it over the dunes, and it didn't get stuck in the sand the way an ordinary car would. This is a lot less bumpy than that. Zachary drove too fast. I buckled my seatbelt tightly. I'd much rather have parted along and looked at the countryside, but I kept my mouth closed. Zachary was a new experience for me, and I didn't want to turn him off by saying the wrong thing. If he was intrigued by me, I was certainly intrigued by him. I couldn't figure out why he had picked me out of all the kids in Constitution Square, but the fact that he had certainly did something for my ego. I think I expected Delphi to be bigger and grander than it turned out to be. It's a small village on top of a mountain, facing a great valley and what appears to be a large lake, but is actually part of the Bay of Corinth. We stopped at a small Xenia set in a midst of gardens built on several levels, with the roof of the lower levels planted with grass, trees, flowers, so that the Xenia seemed part of the hillside. If Delphi was smaller than I'd expected, it was also lovelier, and the mountains were higher and grander. I was overwhelmed by the mountains. The Xenia served only one dish, a lemony chicken that was delicious. But again, I felt tongue-tied. What's wrong, Red? Polly, what's wrong? Nothing. Come on, I know better than that. Someone's hurt you. You can hardly get to be my age without being hurt. You're a constant surprise to me. When I relax into thinking of you as a child, you turn into a woman wounded. Don't be romantic. Don't you want to talk to me? Of course I want to talk to you. What have we been doing all day? Chatting, showing off how much we both know. With a few minor exceptions, we haven't been talking. Well, he was more sensitive than I realized. So shall we talk? Out of desperation, I asked, why don't you talk? About what? Well, why are you in Greece instead of college? It's not for the culture. Little Miss Smarty Pants. No, it's not. So, who wounded you? And though stalling for time, he signaled the waitress for the check. I got dumped by a girl I liked, and I deserved to be dumped. As is my wont, I showed off, trying to prove what a big shot I am, and when she really needed me, I let her down. I don't like accepting that about myself. Suddenly, his face crumpled, but he was back in control. My self-image took a beating. Hey, Red, I don't talk about myself like this, not with anybody. What have you done to me? This time, I didn't tell him not to call me Red. He went on. So it seemed wise to take some time off to find out more about who I am, what I want to be. Have you been finding out? No. As usual, I've been running away. It hit me a couple of days ago in Mykonos. I've been running so I wouldn't have to stop and look at myself. Do I want to be a lawyer, part of an enormous global corporation like Pa? I always thought I did, putting growth and profit over the insecurities of any nation. Multinationals are not accountable to anybody. That's Pa's world. Do I want to inherit it? It occurred to me that the world which Zachary stood to inherit was the world which Sandy and Rhea were devoting their lives to fight. Sandy and Rhea put the interests of human beings above the interests of corporations, and I knew they'd upset several global oligarchies. Do you want to inherit that world? I asked. It's power, he said. Power corrupts. Well, Red, I don't know. I just don't know. It's easier to face your own weaknesses in a context of money and power than looking in the mirror in the morning while you're shaving. If you have enough money and enough power, nothing else matters. Pa's never loved anything except money. He and Ma endured each other. She died a couple of years ago. The extent of their conversation was, I need another ice cube, or where shall we go for dinner? I doubt if they ever slept together much after I was conceived. What about your parents? Do they still have sex? He revealed too much about himself, I thought, so he had to turn it on me. My voice was cool. They sleep in the same bed. What they do in it is their own affair. Zachary paid the bill, putting out what seemed to be a very small tip. Let's get out of here and climb up to the stadium. It was quite a climb, and Zachary got out of breath. If he was wandering around Europe, finding out who he was and what he wanted to do, he must have been doing it in taxis and renting cars at expensive hotels. I felt sorry for him, but he also represented a world which was ruthless, where money mattered and not people. We had to leave Portugal because of that world, because of people coming to Gaia and trying to get hold of Daddy's work on regeneration and exploit it long before it was safe. I liked Zachary, and not just because he liked me. There was just something about him that appealed to me. But I was also frightened by the world in which he'd grown up. Mixed feelings, as usual. The stadium was impressive, with many of the original marble seats intact, carved right out of the hillside. We sat looking at the mountains looming above us and the valley far below. Caressed by the golden air. The land was very dry and bare-looking. There were a few trees, but very little grass, and that was parched and brown. But this was only part of a great cycle, Max had told me. In the winter, the rains would come and the earth would be green again. I didn't like it when Zachary asked me about my parents' sex life. I'm not like Rosie, of course. At 4, Rosie still thinks of mother as an extension of herself. I don't, but still, I want mother to be mother, daddy to be daddy. Max, in a different way from Zachary, also separated my parents from me, seeing them with her clear gray eyes in a way that I had never seen them. Your mother's restless, Max said one rainy winter day when we were sitting in the library. Oh, mother restless? Max got up from the long sofa and put more fat wood in the fire. She's been a good mother to all of you, but it's beginning to wear on her. She's got a fine brain and not enough chance to use it. She helps Daddy a lot in the lab, does all the computer stuff. Yeah, she does. And that's a saving grace, but it's not her own thing. She's going to finish her PhD as soon as Rosie's in school. Easier said than done. You do a great deal, too much, I think, but you'll be out on the nest soon. The boys aren't going to be that much help. Everybody helps out, I said. Everybody has chores. Most of it still falls on your mother, Max said. She's so tired and so restless, she's ready to do go again and walk out on all of you. But she won't. The idea was preposterous. No, she won't. Your Uncle Sandy told me that your mother suffered as an adolescent because her own mother was beautiful and successful in the world of science. Didn't she win a Nobel Prize? Yes, for isolating for a doorway with mitochondria. Your mother felt insufficient because of your grandmother, and she didn't want the same thing to happen to you to make you feel you had to compete. So she's held herself back, and it's beginning to tell. She will get to her own work eventually, but eventually no doubt seems a long time away. I stared into the fire. Now that Max had pointed out that Mother was restless, I could see that it was true. Your mother is a truly mature human being, and they're rare. She's learned to live with herself as well as with your father, and believe me, your father's no easy person. He may be a genius, but single-minded scientists tend to let people down. Daddy doesn't. She cut me off. Of course he does. We all do. You won't grow up until you learn that all human beings betray each other and that we are all going to be let down even by those we most trust, especially by those we most trust. I didn't like this, but it had the ring of truth, and I didn't like that either. If we put human beings on pedestals, their clay feet are going to give way and they are going to come crashing down, and unless we get out of the way, they'll crush us. And I didn't get out of the way. I hardly heard Max. Your mother had the guts to stick it out on this godforsaken island with amazing grace. Your father's work is important, and it demands isolation and considerable secrecy, but it's hard on the rest of you. She continued to squat by the fire, poking at the smoldering logs. The fat wood caught and its bright flame soared. Satisfied, Max sat back. Your parents have one thing going for them. They love each other. My response was again a reflex. Of course. Max turned from the fire and smiled at me, her loveliest smile. There's no of course about it. Lots of married people barely tolerate each other. People stay together because of the children or for financial convenience. Divorce is expensive, but your parents love each other. They're lovers, and that's probably incomprehensible to you, but it's a wonderful thing indeed. The fire was blazing brightly now, and she got up and sat next to me on the sofa. It worries your mother that Kate goes to all the school dances and you don't. I shrugged. The wind beat the rain across the veranda and against the library windows. I don't like disappointing her. Max put her arm around my shoulders. You don't disappoint her. She just doesn't want you to have the same kind of difficult adolescence that she did. But she weathered it. You will too, I suppose. Polly love, having it easy is no blessing. To my mind, it hinders maturing. Zachary and I climbed down from the stadium to the sacred precincts and the theater. I wanted to be able to walk in awe here where so many extraordinary mysteries have gone on thousands of years ago. It was here that people came to consult the Delphic oracle in times of emergency. How lonely the oracle must have been, speaking only in riddles, with no one to understand her except the priests, who may or may not have translated correctly what she was saying. The guides were herding their growths like goats. Sheep at the Acropolis. What did I think of them as goats in Delphi? And shooting facts at them in German, English, French. The noise cut across the clarity of the air. Noise pollution is as destructive as any other. If I focus on one of the guys, I could translate what he was saying. But the facts were delivered with the boredom of repetition. Apollo was worshipped here, Zachary said, and Dionysus. Light and dark, reason and fecundity, waxing and waning like the moon. We were standing on a green knoll across a valley were the great dark mountains. The sky moved upward into a vanishing vastness of blue. I'm an Apollo worshipper, Zachary said, or would be if I lived in Greek times. Apollo, the god of reason. You strike me as being rather Dionysian, I said. The name Dennis comes from Dionysus, but my uncle Dennis is both sober and reserved. Sandy says it's because Dennis spends his time with the unfathomable mysteries of the human brain. Zachary bowed. Thank you. I take it as a compliment, but I don't want you to think about philosophy. I want you to pay attention to me. Even you can't compete with all this. He took my hand. Avanti, let's go. It was a good day. Confusing, but good. Zachary made me feel I wasn't just a gawky, backward adolescent who didn't even need a bra till I was 14, but that I was mature and attractive to him. We went to the sun and Lumiere show at the Acropolis, which somehow had less magic close-up than it had had from the roof of the King George the night before. Then to the Placa for a late supper, a small place Zachary had discovered that wasn't touristy. Good food and Greek music and lots of laughter in the air. I decided that I was meeting Sandy's challenge pretty well. Very well. After the meal, we sipped small cups of the sweet Greek coffee, and I was sorry the day was almost over. Polly, I haven't had this good a time in ages. You don't put any pressure on me. You take me as I am. Dare I ask you to spend tomorrow with me? Dare he? I hadn't dared dream that he would. Dare ahead. We'll do something fun. Take a drive. Have a picnic. I'll pick you up at 10 again, okay? Fine. Fine. What would I have been doing if Zachary hadn't picked me up? Going on a bus tour and feeling sorry for myself? Max had once said, we cannot afford the luxury of self-pity. Self-pity is destructive, I do know that, but Zachary made it very easy for me not to need the luxury. In the taxi, he leaned toward me and brushed his lips against mine, then kissed me gently. Mwah! That's not your first kiss, he said. No, but it was different. I was different. He kissed me again. Mwah! Polly, I don't know what you're telling me. Good night, I said firmly as the taxi drew up in front of the hotel. And thanks, Zachary. It's been a good day, a really good day. Back in the room, I undressed and bathed and then wrapped myself in towels and sat at the desk, getting my journal for school finished for the day. How would Miss Zaleski translate what I had written? I wrote about what I had seen, but not that I had been with anybody. But I took a postcard from the stationery folder and wrote the family. Wrote a separate card to Charles and to Rennie. There was one postcard left. Should I write to Max and Ursula? I shut the folder.